Hey guys, it's Joe, and in this video I'm going to show you a really useful method to have a consistent bass with lots of energy and control. There are several parts to this, and the first is to duplicate and split your bass into lows and highs. This is a common mixing technique where you EQ out the high end on one and then the low end on the other to blend them together for a specific level of lows and highs. However, we're going to add some extras. I've already split my bass track, which sounds like this. So I just duplicated my bass and put a slightly different EQ on each. On the lows, I've EQ'd out everything above 208 Hz here. And then on the mids and the highs, I've EQ'd out everything below 320 Hz. This high pass filter can generally be between 300 and 350 Hz. You don't have it exactly opposite to the other, so they won't both be on 208 Hz, let's say. As these aren't brick wall or flat cuts on this filter, you'd still be left with quite a lot of energy in this area, so by having a larger crossover like this, it really helps to remove or reduce that mud. The next step is to blend them together so the levels represent what you want it to sound like, which is what I've done here with a gain plugin on the higher channel. As we're just going to leave the low end as it is for now, and I'll explain why in a minute. What we're going to do next is add serial compression to our low end. We want one to add a general punchy compression, one for a bit of colour, and then a limiter on right at the end. Our first compressor looks like this for a bit of punch. We've got quite a long attack at 62 milliseconds, a medium-ish release at 150 milliseconds, a harder ratio at 5:1, and we're going for about 1 to 2 dB of reduction here. So let's just have a listen to it on its own to hear what it's doing. So it's controlling it quite consistently, and then I've just put a bit of makeup gain on it to make up for that reduction. This is our softer compressor to just tame some peaks. We've got a quicker attack at 15 milliseconds, a quicker release at 68 milliseconds, a softer ratio at 3:1, and a bit of soft distortion as well to give it a bit of colour. Let's just have a listen to what this compressor's doing as well. And lastly is our limiter. We want this to cut off any volume above minus 10 dB to really reduce how much it comes through and to keep it perfectly under control. You also want to set the release meter here really quite long and to have it fall off in time with the song. For this tempo, it's about 940 milliseconds, and that's for the length of a bar. So of course, if you half that, you'll have a half note, half it again, you'll have a quarter note, but I tend to stick between 1 bar and half a bar for this. I like to aim for about -1 to -2 dB reduction here, so it's totaling about 5 to 6 dB reduction over all three compressors. By limiting the low end to -10 dB, it allows control over the sub end of your mix. This will often be a good spot for it to just sit in the mix as well, so that it's heard, but it's not overwhelming. Once you've done all this, you can then process the high end of your bass differently. I tend to use the same compressors, but with adjusted settings, as it then helps with the two separate channels sounding like one, because they'll have the same colour on them. You can then start to add chorus, delays, reverbs, all kinds of modulation that you wouldn't be able to add if you had the low end in it as well, because it would sound extremely muddy and messy. So let's add a bit of chorus. And now a bit of delay. I tend to add all these effects on buses because chances are I'll use them across the mix as well, and it helps things sound consistent. This method of serial compression and limiting your bass is a really effective way to help keep the low end controlled without killing the energy that it provides to the mix. I hope you found this video useful, and if you have any questions, please leave a comment or contact me via my website. Thanks a lot for watching. Cheers.